My husband returns from a week-long trip overseas, and he looks to be in a good mood. Without noticing my own mood at all, he offered me a souvenir, which appeared to be a Balinese coffee, before saying,
It's been a long time since I've been able to show filial piety to my parents. That was a great trip. I feel so happy right now.
what was he talking about? I suppose he never imagined I didn't know the truth about his little trip. I was so disgusted with him, and I opened my mouth and said, even though your mother passed away last week?
The frick?
My husband was completely flustered, unable to comprehend an extremely simple situation. Then, as though I was trying to get through to him, I told him another truth, and at that, he began to pale, and eventually admitted complete defeat. This is the story of how my husband stabbed me in the back by using his own mother as an excuse to go on a trip abroad, and how an unexpected individual helped me out so much in exacting my revenge on him. My name is Leslie Restopopoulos, and I'm a 33-year-old housewife with a full-time job. My husband, Jordan, is a 38-year-old company employee. I met him through a mutual friend of ours, and we have been married for 3 years. Jordan is a man with a strong, admirable work ethic, but at home, he was a very old-school kind of husband who never lifted a damn finger when it came to helping me around the house. He had an attitude that the wife would understand everything he was thinking, even if he didn't say anything, and claimed it was nothing but common sense for me to always look out for him and be one step ahead of him so that he can have a nice life at home and go back to work the next day. He thus took it for granted that I took good care of him, so I never heard him say thank you to me, or even anything close to that.
Hey, you ought to wear something a little more modest.
But I'm in my regular suit, just like always, honey.
Huh. What makes you think I only thought you ought to dress more modestly just now? I've always thought you should. We're married now, so you really don't have to dress so well as to lure in a man to take care of you.
I mean, it's not that it's even something flamboyant, but
You don't talk back to me, woman. You have just one job in this house, and that is just doing what I tell you to do.
he was like this about everything. From anything from housework, such as how to clean the house, to what I was wearing and what I kept as my own personal belongings in the house. I only ever assumed he wanted everything to be the way he wanted it for my sake. At first, I thought he was just concerned about me. But after being nagged at over and over again, without ever seeming to stop, I really started to wish he would shut the hell up. Mr. Rastapopoulos, my father-in-law, is a man of similar demeanor, and having grown up watching him, Jordan probably thought it was normal for him to behave in such a way towards his wife. But I wasn't a caring, patient woman like Mrs. Rastapopoulos. I suppose that made my husband think of me as an unattentive woman all the more, which evidently wasn't good for me. But I was a housewife who also worked a full-time job. There was only so much I could do before my physical and mental strength would reach their limits. I understand Jordan's longing for a marriage like his own parents, a couple who could understand each other without ever saying a word. But I wished he would just face the facts. For the time being, while we were still novice in our marriage experience, we had a different kind of relationship. And perhaps, just maybe, if all went well, over the years we would develop the same kind of mutual respect for each other as Mr. and Mrs. Rastapopoulos have. Then, Jordan's wishes would perhaps be a lot more attainable. Then, one day, Jordan came home, bringing home a lot of brochures about tourist spots overseas. Oh my, Guam? Saipan? These are all famous resort destinations. Are you planning a trip?
Well, Mom is turning 60 soon. Thinking of taking her on an overseas trip for a week or so.
A week? Well, I hate to break it to you, honey. My work is so busy this time of year, and it's pretty unlikely I'll be able to take that much time off.
Wait, huh? What are you talking about? Whoever mentioned you would tag along with us? I meant this trip was going to be for Mom and I, together. So it's really none of your business, to be honest. You remember 5 years ago, when we celebrated Dad's 60th birthday? As a present, I gave him a whole week-long trip to Jamaica. And Mom said she'd also love an overseas trip somewhere. I thought it was a perfect way to show my filial piety and gratitude towards my parents, who've done such a good job raising me well to become the successful person that I am today.
Sad how he didn't say the word happy after successful. I'm sure Oliver will be very happy with her 60th birthday present.
I know she will.
But if you and Edna are going on a trip together, is Oliver going to be home alone for a week?
Huh? Oh, yeah. That'll be alone for that period of time. Yeah.
I'll still have to work, but maybe I should cook and bring him some homemade food. Maybe I could also keep him some company.
You don't need to do that, Leslie. They sell prepared meals at the supermarket near his house now, so I think he can handle himself for a week or so. Dad doesn't like anyone interfering with his private life, as you very well know. So I'm pretty sure he'll be more than comfortable being alone in his home.
I see. I was genuinely a little concerned about Jordan's seemingly flustered behavior, but he did have a point. I'd only ever had the most necessary conversations with Oliver Rastapopoulos, and I honestly had no damn clue how close I thought I was to him. Did he seriously consider me his daughter-in-law? Or did he merely see me as his son's obedient wife? I didn't really, and I frankly wasn't ready to find that out either. I really hadn't thought of it, though, when I suggested I keep him company. Old habits really do die hard. I felt grateful to Jordan for convincing me to not take the trouble. If my father-in-law was okay with being alone for a short while, then maybe we were both better off with Jordan's suggestion.
I mean, it's going to be hard enough for you to spend an entire hour after work bringing him home food, too, won't it? You really don't have to worry about him, Leslie.
Okay, you convinced me.
Good. Now then, let's see where Mom wants to go.
With that, Jordan gathered up all the brochures he had spread out all over the carpeted floor and retreated to his room. Up until then, I had always accompanied Jordan and his family on their little trips, but I thought it might be nice for him to have some time alone with his parents every once in a while. A month after he brought home the brochures, the destination was decided to be Bali, and he went on a trip with his mother-in-law after completing all the necessary formalities by himself, which was actually very strange for him. Considering his habits of making me do all the miscellaneous work around the house while he rested and did whatever he wanted, him volunteering to arrange the plane tickets, the hotel, and the sightseeing route honestly made me suspicious of something. I knew not what it was, but something about it just didn't sit well with me. The night Jordan left for Bali with his mother, I was relaxing for the first time in a long time when I received a call from my father-in-law. A serious sort of character, Oliver was always calm and collected, as though nothing in the world could possibly deter him. That was why I immediately sensed something was wrong when he sounded like he was refraining from telling me something over the phone and asked me if Jordan was there. Jordan? Sir, but he's on vacation in Bali with his mother, isn't he?
What?
Oliver raised his voice in my words. But sir, they literally just left this morning. Don't you remember? What is he talking about? Did he miss the memo or something? I waited for his next words, and they came very slowly, very breathlessly.
It can't be. She... Edna. She just drew her last breath.
He choked, and I could instantly sense he was struggling to fight back tears. I could hear sobbing sounds loud and clear through the speakerphone, and I knew then that Mr. Rastapopoulos was dead serious. What? Edna is... What do you mean she drew her last breath?
She had a heart attack and while she was taking a shower, I heard her loud moans of pain, and I quickly called for help. They quickly took her to the ER, but she passed away in the ambulance on the way there.
After saying that, he sobbed for a while, and all I could do was wait and listen. I clutched the receiver tightly as I listened to his voice. Edna had loved me like I was her own daughter for the first 3 years of my marriage to her son. Edna is gone? But that can't be. She's on a trip with Jordan, right? Something about this situation was obviously, seriously wrong, and I began to suspect the worst on my husband's part.
Did Jordan really say that he was going on a trip with Edna? Are you sure he meant his mother?
Oliver's words thankfully brought me back to reality. Yes, sir. I'm absolutely positive. He said that he was leaving for Bali on a flight this morning. Hold on. I have the flight information right here in the computer. Please wait a moment. I remembered I caught a glimpse of Jordan looking at the flight e-tickets at the home desktop, and after turning it on, I looked up the reservation information for the plane tickets. It indeed listed my husband's name, but there was also the name of a woman by the name of Clarice Bishop, who definitely was not my mother-in-law. Apparently, my husband was traveling with someone whom he had to lie to me about. I have the plane reservations right here, and it seems that Jordan went on a trip with a woman named Clarice Bishop. This is quite obviously not your wife, and not his mother. I could hear Oliver gulp. In retrospect, I can't help but laugh at my own patheticness during such a time. I wonder, if he would lie to me about this trip with his mother, could that mean he was actually going on a trip of adultery? Could be actually seeing another woman?
Leslie? My dear? Are you all right?
I was panicking by that point, but the fact that he called me dear calmed me down more than I could have ever imagined possible. The sound of Oliver's deep, consoling voice allowed me to come back to my senses, and I took a deep breath. I'm fine, sir. I'm sorry. I realized how pathetic I am to have my father-in-law, who was supposed to be feeling the worst pain over the death of the love of his life, be concerned about me. I decided to put aside the shock of my husband's betrayal for the moment and straighten out my priorities. The direct flight to Bali takes about 7 hours and 30 minutes. If I call him right away, I might be able to convince him to come to the funeral. The wake will be impossible, I'm sure, so perhaps I'll call Jordan and get him to come home in time. When I told Oliver that, I got a surprising response. His words made me stop breathing for a while.
I really don't believe Edna would want such a good-for-nothing, backstabbing little bastard send her home. I honestly don't think that damn prick deserves to see his mother off with what he did. He literally used her as an excuse to justify going on a trip overseas and also as a cover-up in his adultery.
I mean, perhaps, but every son who loves his mother ought to say goodbye properly.
There is no need to bother, I say. He doesn't need to be contacted.
After saying that, Oliver merely told me the dates, places, and times of the wake and funeral, and hung up the phone. I wondered for a while about what I should do, but I eventually decided that getting ready to head for my in-laws' house to help Oliver out with the proceedings was the best thing to do, especially since he was beside himself with grief and anguish at his wife's sudden demise. Even after arriving at my in-laws' house, I still felt that I should call my husband. She was his one and only mother. After all, any child who was denied the chance for final farewells would undoubtedly be guilt-ridden for a long time, if not for life. No matter how much I felt I had to respect Oliver's wishes, I knew I had to contact him. I checked with my father-in-law again, but his response was the same. I kept on trying to convince him, and he finally opened his mouth and revealed something particular that basically justified everything completely. After listening to what he had to say, I decided that Edna would not want her son to attend her funeral. So I wound up not contacting Jordan and let time slip by quickly. A week later, Jordan came home from his trip to Bali in a seemingly great mood. He presented me with a souvenir he had bought there, which was Balinese coffee, and he began to talk happily.
I'm sorry I left you alone for a week, but thanks to you being so flexible, I was able to show filial piety to my parents for the first time in a long time. That was a great trip, and I feel so happy right now. Mom herself was so happy to have this trip as her birthday present, and she told me to send you lots of hugs and kisses because you allowed her a chance to spend some time with her son.
Well, that's so nice. But I wonder, which mother in particular did you show filial piety for? Because the mother you have that I personally know passed away last week. I told him with a cold smile, without accepting the souvenir he offered to me.
The frick?
Didn't you hear me? Your mother passed away the same night you went on your trip.
Hey, come on, now. I told you more than enough times now, didn't I? She was with me on the trip, silly.
The night you went on your trip to Bali, she had a heart attack while she was taking a shower, and she later drew her last breath in the ambulance on her way to the ER.
What are you talking about? Even a joke has a line that ought not to be crossed, Leslie.
I think you know me all too well. I don't ever make dark jokes like that. Especially not jokes that involve the death of your beloved parents. Jordan, believe me when I tell you that your mother passed away a week ago.
That can't be. No way. Is it? Is it really true that my mom?
Yes, we've already had the wake and the funeral.
What the actual frick? Why didn't you call me?
As I began to tell him everything, his face turned increasingly pale with every passing second. Would you have told me if you were in the opposite situation? I bet you'd be angry with me about lying to you, and you'd probably think, yeah, screw her. I'm not going to let her know.
I beg to differ. I think I would have called you anyway.
You really think so? Well, there's no point in talking about what ifs anymore. So, who were you spending a week with in Bali? My husband's eyes widened at my words, and he glared at me.
Hey, don't you frickin' change the subject. I'm asking about my darling mother.
Who is really trying to change the subject away from what's important here?
Why the hell didn't you call me sooner? You know that if I'd lost my own mother, I would never afford to go off gallivanting on a trip outside the country. Any sensible human being would come straight back.
And who was it that told me that he was going on a trip overseas with his mother, huh?
That's freaking besides the point here, Leslie. I'm only gonna ask one more time. Answer me, or so help me, I'm gonna make you regret that decision very much. You hear? Why didn't you call me?
There's no way what I'm saying is frickin' besides the point, Jordan. Do you really think your mother would have wanted her own son, who lied about going on a trip with her herself, and instead went on a trip of adultery with another woman, betraying his wife in the process, to come to her funeral? Do you honestly think such a scumbag, one that's willing to cleverly use their parents as an excuse to cover up an otherwise very suspicious trip overseas, deserves to attend their mother's funeral? Think about it, rationally, and tell me what you really think, being the civilized human being that you are. Don't you dare lie to me. Go on a trip overseas with a woman, and then act as though I am the villain around here?
I didn't mean for any of this to happen.
Well, if it hadn't happened, I might still be believing your lies. But you didn't just betray me. You betrayed your mother. Imagine her right now, in a better place, seeing you doing what you did. How would that make her feel? I already know everything, Jordan. No use hiding it. The woman you're seeing is Clarice Bishop, a young lady who works at the same workplace you do. It was easy to find out how deep the affair was, since it was rumored within your company that you two took a paid vacation together and went abroad. I proceeded to slam the divorce documents on the table and glared back at my husband.
What the hell is this? Divorce out of the blue over a single mistake is just freaking ridiculous.
It's my decision whether or not I forgive you.
I merely had a little fling with a subordinate. It was all just fun and games, all right?
Whether what you did with her was for fun or not, it's still adultery as long as you're a married man.
You little bitch. Who do you think you're talking to like that? Oh, so almighty.
Just as my husband was about to yell at me even more brutally, a voice much louder than his echoed through the living room.
Jordan!
My father-in-law came storming into the living room, marched right up to Jordan, and slapped him hard across the cheek. The blow sent Jordan off balance, and he crumbled to the floor. Oliver backed away a little and stood beside me.
I've been listening to everything you two have been saying. How dare you disregard your own crimes and attempt to discipline your wife in such a pointless manner?
Dad, it's because she didn't let me know about Mom.
It was I who told Leslie there was no need for me to contact you, son.
What? But why? Dad, I'm the eldest son. I'm Mom's only son.
Indeed. You are the eldest child and only son to my lovely Edna. And the mere thought of having a son who has the guts to use his own mother an excuse for his trips of adultery is enough to make me want to puke. The only reason I didn't let you attend the funeral is because you made the exact same mistake your grandfather did. Your mother's own father was the kind of freaking bastard who simply couldn't care less about his family, and eventually disappeared, abandoning his wife with 6 children to raise on her own. Being the eldest herself, you have no idea how hard your mother had to work to keep the family surviving.
I don't know anything about that. I've never heard of such a story.
Of course you hadn't. Why would she and I ever talk about someone we didn't even want to remember? How could your mother want you to use her as your justification for becoming the same kind of person who made her family suffer? You were running off with the ridiculous, selfish reasons, telling yourself that you were doing it all because you had found true love, or you just wanted to have some fun. You were putting your mother through the hell she experienced as a young woman, a really traumatizing time of her life, and you weren't going to reconsider your heinous actions.
Jordan just stood there, listening to his father's words, stunned.
Maybe it was a blessing for Mom that she didn't have to find out that her own son was like her traitorous father. But I couldn't just allow for such a blasphemous prick be near my love, even if he was my own son. This is why I didn't allow you to attend the funeral.
I care about Mom, and...
Ever since you were with her, the first person you had to take care of was Leslie here. I won't ever call a man like you a good husband. Being overbearing and selfish as such. As the head of a family, the husband's duty is to keep his wife and children well-fed, healthy, and happy. All you ever did was treat your wife as though she was your slave, and you don't deserve to be cared for.
No. I don't want a divorce. I don't want a divorce.
Shut up. Leslie tried so hard to persuade me to contact you about your mother until the very end. She cared about you so genuinely it made my heart ache, and yet you betrayed her so easily. Pathetic. Now sign the divorce papers.
Jordan broke down in tears. I didn't know if those tears were from the grief of losing his mother or from being defeated in this argument, but I couldn't care less anymore. I still don't know if what Oliver did for Edna was really the right thing to do, but all things considered, I think I agree that Edna wanted it how it transpired. After that, with Mr. Rastapopoulos' pressure, the divorce was finalized, and I received alimony from Jordan and Clarice. Jordan himself was rumored to be a fool who enjoyed a vacation unfaithfully without knowing that his own mother had died, but he couldn't quit his job because there was the alimony to worry about. So now he's living on eggshells as he tries to make ends meet. He wanted to remarry Clarice, but she considered him just one of her friends with benefits and didn't even think about marrying him. I heard she left him after a big fight with him because she wound up being legally bound to pay alimony to me. Mr. Rastapopoulos disowned Jordan and is now living in mourning for his wife, rest her soul. He has apologized many times to me for what Jordan did to me, but I really don't think it was his fault. I did say Oliver was of the same sort of person in the house, one where he expected his wife to do lots of things for him. But he always had a sense of reciprocity. In exchange for her supporting him at home, he worked hard enough to give his wife and family the best life he could give them. I now realize that both my parents-in-law were keeping a reasonable distance and watched over me, and I'm so grateful for that. Even after the divorce, I still visit Mr. Rastapopoulos' house on the monthly anniversary of Edna's passing and pray hands in front of her photograph. Oliver, who used to be a bit of a difficult man for me to communicate with, has recently started to talk to me about many more things, and he's proven to be a very kind-hearted, interesting man. I enjoy talking with him and sharing memories of my mother-in-law, and I hope to keep him in the months and years to come as I do my best in climbing the ladder towards success.